call the meeting to order and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll go on to the roll call.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Jim Balzer. Are we going to unmute for roll calls? Mike Boldig.
Present.
Noel Deep.
Yes.
Jeannie Long. Jessica Mead.
Here.
Danny Pyatt.
Here.
And JD Schrader. I don't see JD logged in.
I was hitting the wrong controls. Sorry.
Okay, Jim is there, but no. Okay. We'll go on to the consent agenda.
I move the board approve the minutes from the February 25th, 2020 Board of Education meeting, financial report from February 2020, consideration of current bills, check numbers 3687 through 3793 in the amount of $153,334.08, ACH numbers 192000845 through 192000966 in the amount of $822,944.19, and one wire transfer in the amount of $23,061.87 for a total of $999,340.14.
Second to the motion.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? And then we'll do a roll call again.
Okay. Balzer.
Yes.
Boldig.
Yes.
Deep.
Yes.
Long. Mead. Jeannie, that was a yes? Okay. Mary?
Yes.
Danny?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Andy?
Yes. Okay. Is there a public comment? Is anybody phoned in?
Not that I've recognized, no.
No phone-ins or visitors.
Okay, then we'll go on to the student report, and I see Heather is with us tonight.
Hi. Okay, so what we have, it's kind of short, but we have prom. If it's still happening with all of this, we have over half of our stuff planned, and we're communicating right now with each other to plan it. And then the only sport that started before not being able in school is track. And we just had our first week of practice, and they got all of their baselines in, and they were given workouts to do and a place to log them over this time.
A lot of work has been given to students via email and Google Classroom. Google Classroom is basically a place for teachers to upload PDFs and assignments for students to complete, and they can return them to the teachers right there. AP testing is now online, and 2 dates will be given for those tests, and they're also shortened tests. tests and quizzes that were planned for before our hiatus have now been formed into Google Forms.
Okay, thank you for that report. How are that for the two of you? How is studying or keeping up with schoolwork working out?
It's a little more difficult because you don't have the face-to-face, so it takes some time to get in contact with the teacher and get your questions.
Yeah. It's weird. Hard to get used to.
Okay.
Sort of looks
Okay.
like Nathan's razor broke too.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's
Thank
great.
you.
We move on to new business. Committee of the whole.
I move the board approve the minutes from the March 10th, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Second.
Any questions or comments? And then we'll just go ahead and do a roll call again, Mary Kay.
Okay. Boldig,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Mead,
Was that a yes?
Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Balzer,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Sorry about the dog.
Okay, we will go on to a COVID update here.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm happy that this format is working for all of us. Unprecedented times, as you know, and I just have to tell you that without my admin team, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. We met again virtually today, and we just keep plugging along. So as you know, the governor issued a new order, Safer at Home, today, which really doesn't change a whole lot from what we were already doing. And that is that we meet frequently as an admin team, and then principals are also meeting virtually with their respective staffs. We are communicating daily if there is communication that needs to happen. And recently just sent out a food service survey. We were so proud that we served almost 800 kids last Friday with breakfast and lunch, but we felt like we were still missing some and wanted to see if we had interest in delivery. We got the go-ahead today from the state that buses can be used for food delivery. So that will be our next piece to investigate. I'll stop there for now and see if you have any questions about food service.
Julie, I did have an inquiry from somebody asking about it, and it was comparing what another district is doing in the western part of the state. But when I did a little research, I also found that that district is only 85 square miles. So it's a lot smaller, and the logistics of doing a busing delivery of meals was probably a little more easy than it would be for ours. But nonetheless, I'm glad this is on the agenda tonight because someone was concerned if we were looking into it. Sounds like we are, so that's a step in the right direction.
Right. So I'll move on to the buildings and operations.
Wait,
maintenance.
Julie, I got one more question.
Okay.
Do you have any idea if senior citizens are being served with, Meals on Wheels or anything?
We did check into that, Andy, and yes, they are. What we found is that we could offer seniors meals, but they would have to pay for them and pick them up. So from our perspective, we didn't think that offered any more of a convenience than it would for what our community is already doing, like the food pantry and Meals on Wheels.
Okay.
So the buildings have been closed since last Thursday, actually. And that means that Jake and his crew first went in and used a disinfectant, and I know he's listening and can chime in, but that settled over the weekend then. So deep cleaning began on Monday, and admin meets again tomorrow to discuss if and when, well, it will be when, teachers can go back into the building on a very limited basis to kind of regroup, gather more materials, etc. But Jake and his crew have committed to use this time to their benefit and really get after projects that maybe they couldn't have done if students had been in the building, etc. But our primary focus is to make sure that the buildings are clean and sanitized as much as possible. And from there, I'll talk about student learning. Teachers, that Monday that we had school on March 16th, teachers were with students and did the best job they could on gathering materials, sending them home with devices, grades 8 through 12, etc. And then knowing that that would lead us to spring break or take us to spring break, that was the initial plan. Then we realized that I stopped counting at 40. Over 40 staff members had previous spring break plans. So we knew early on that even if the state said schools could be in session, we wouldn't be able to run with a limited staff. So that's when we agreed and notified the board that spring break would stand as is. So now tomorrow's meeting really will focus on what we're calling phase 2. That is, how do we provide learning opportunities starting April 13th until an extended time? So all things considered, I think we're doing as well as can be expected. Everyone agrees that it's about that connectedness for our students, making sure that they feel, they know that we miss them, we're there for them. We want to provide learning opportunities the best we can. And really that depends on the grade level 2. As you know, the primary grades had different packets and things of information and books to take home. But some of the high school courses are managing online learning in a bit more streamlined fashion. So anyway, we'll reconvene and talk about what phase 2 looks like tomorrow.
So Julie, what impact does this have on the academics of the students then? What about graduation and their preparedness for college? How does this impact?
So there has been no guidance on the state yet, Dr. Deep, on that. One district already canceled its face-to-face instruction for the rest of the year. I'm not aware of others, but I believe it will not be long before the guidance is given on things like graduation. If we take our cues from AP exams, the information just came out that students can take them from home, but it will be on a limited basis. In other words, what the material they would have covered while they were still in session. So I feel that might be the same if this closure extends. I imagine boards will be able to waive the stringent graduation requirements and maybe consider them through first semester senior year only. Those are the types of things I'm expecting, but nothing is certain yet.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Yeah, I don't have any questions for you, Julie, but I was just wondering if Dr. Deep would like to give us a little update on maybe the community and the hospital and how they're preparing for COVID.
Oh yeah, that's been something that's that we never expected. But the hospital, at least I can say that Aspirus Langland Hospital is way ahead of the curve on this compared to other facilities that I'm aware of. We planned for this about 10 days ago. We have an incident command center set up here in the hospital, the senior leadership, and with me being there as the chief medical officer, we meet at least twice a day with the system as a whole for Aspirus to figure out how things are going. So far, we have not had any positive cases. We have tested about 4 or 5 so far have come back negative. We'll keep our fingers crossed and hope and pray that somehow we don't see the volumes that other places have begun to see. But if that happens, the hospital is quite prepared. The operating room has been closed for all elective cases. So we actually have a 7-bed unit downstairs in the surgery department that will be opened up once we start seeing an influx of cases. Upstairs, we have about four rooms which are negative pressure that can accommodate those patients. All patients and visitors, visitors have been limited quite a bit. So we are only seeing those who are able to come or do want to come. We have reached out to some of our senior patients, asking them if they are stable. We'll try to do phone calls, follow up with them, see how things are going, if we can put up their visits. The hospital is now screening all employees who are coming in. So if you get your temperature taken in the morning and if your questionnaire is negative, temperature's not there, you're good to go. Otherwise, you get sent home and begin your quarantine for the 2 weeks. So, yeah. Well, we need to keep our older patients safe. As you can see, unfortunately, it is taking a toll on the older individuals quite a bit. But one of the other things that has recently happened with this COVID is now that you're realizing they have 2 strains, and I don't know it was a spontaneous mutation or what happened. They have the L strain and the S strain. The S strain is the mutated one, which is less virulent, and that's what some of the younger folks were having. But the other one, the L strain, was the one that infected people in China and in Italy and has caused widespread loss of life. So hopefully if the mutated strain takes over and you just get some mild illness, get your immunity from it, we'll all be happy.
Thanks a lot, Noel.
Anytime.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on COVID here from anybody? Then we'll go on to the next item, busing.
Tim Prunty has joined us. Tim, I know you spoke with Tim Grosskirth today from Maliette. Tim, you're muted. Not working.
Not a rock and roll concert.
I don't talk Star Wars, Tim.
Yes.
I'm waiting for the spaceship.
Tim, can't hear you at all. There's like this weird noise, like space.
Justin, can you help Tim out?
Yeah.
Still not good, Tim.
maybe have Tim call in on the phone.
You know, Tim, this is the best you've sounded in years.
We can't hear you at all. You sound like a robot. We've not heard one word.
Could we just leave Dustin working with Kim for a while here and move on to some other agenda items?
Sure.
So, Tim, if Dustin could contact you and maybe you can let us know when you can talk, and then we'll just go on to board action items. And we'll start with item A, start college now. Would somebody like to make a
Yeah, I move the
I
board.
move the board approve the 4 students for the Start College Now program to begin in the fall of 2020.
Seconded.
Okay, any comments on this, Julie? You're muted, Julie.
This is Clint. If there are any questions, it is pertaining to policy 2271.01, the Start College Now program that we do every year and give students, if they notify us by March 1st, an opportunity to take courses that are not like any courses that we have at the high school. So I believe these are all CNA courses on the approvals.
Okay. Okay, any questions from anybody on the board? Then Mary Kay, would just go ahead and do a roll call on this too.
Okay. Deep,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Mead,
Yes.
Neufeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
JD, did you come in yet? No. Balzer,
Yes.
Boldig,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Okay, then we'll go on to a high school wall cavity proposal.
I move the board accept the proposal from Holton Brothers, Inc. in the amount of $37,260 for high school wall cavity repair.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second that.
Okay, and we discussed this at the COW meeting. Is there any more discussion or questions on it?
No, it's just something necessary and we need to do it.
Yeah, and for any of you that have been around long enough, you understand that problem that we've had, and I know I touched on it, but the reason that there's only one price is because this is like probably stage 4 or 5 of this process where we've been fixing areas and we're getting down, but as we go along, we find more. So I really don't see an option to bring in another company to solve our problem. So that's why there's only the one company that we've used from the beginning of this process.
Folks, it looks like we lost Andy.
Cool. Danny, step up.
Oh, there he is. Andy, are you back?
Okay, if Andy's not back, let's do a roll call vote if there's no other discussion.
Okay.
I think I'm back.
There you are.
Thanks. There we go. Long,
Yes.
Mead,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Pyatt, Bowser,
Yes.
Boldig,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. Okay,
Mary, I think I
Um,
cut out of there. I didn't hear my name, so yes.
I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you.
okay. We will go on to support staff payment during school closure.
I move the board approve the Unified School District of Antigo paid support staff the regular wages for the duration of the pandemic school closure.
Seconded.
I'll second that.
Andy, I'll have to recuse myself from the discussion as well as the vote on this measure.
Okay,
If Mary, you can let the minutes reflect my recusal of discussion and vote, please.
Yes. Thank you.
So I think Tim has joined us again, but I'll start with this. It was something that all admin had agreed on, and in preliminary discussions with Andy Mary, he felt the board would endorse as well. What we initially were concerned about is if we were going to be back in school and had to extend our year, and we had paid staff their regular wages, then we might have to pay additional money that we had not budgeted for. However, you are aware that the instructional minutes requirement has been waived, so we will not be extending our school year and can therefore comfortably commit to regular wages. All 12-month employees, both administrators and support staff, are required to continue working. Most of those can take advantage of a virtual option, although you understand custodial cannot. We need them in the buildings preparing for our return. Food service has been great at the 12-month employee. Lisa Benishek is working with Sarah every day, but also other food service workers are helping. So that really leaves us with school year support staff who are being paid and not necessarily working at this time. We believe, though, as time goes on, that there will be opportunities for them to help, namely with our custodial staff, that fine detail cleaning that doesn't require specific training, et cetera. And also just today, I learned from some of our principals that support staff are helping teachers just like they would if we were in session, reaching out to students, et cetera. So I feel comfortable with that decision and am pleased that the board does as well. I just would hate for the pandemic to rest or for us to gain any minor benefits, since 2/3 of wages are budgeted or paid by the state anyway, but have any kind of financial gain from this very unfortunate situation.
It's the right thing to do. How about teachers? Are they getting paid too?
They are.
Okay.
All salaried employees get paid as usual.
Good.
I
Excellent.
know one thing that know for sure that's going to come out of this. I think our community is going to appreciate our teachers and what they go through every day, our teachers and our staff. Because if you read the messages on Facebook, these parents are not happy teaching their children.
The shoe pinches.
Leastwise, we won't have any expulsions.
And if I could offer one more piece, that is that in early consultation with Dean Dietrich, If we were to come across a support staff who, for example, was uncomfortable coming into the building, even if we adhere to the no fewer than 10 people rule, et cetera, that person could indeed take paid time off. So that is an option we can extend should we come across any employee who is just not feeling comfortable working at this time.
Julie, they can't use their sick time for that, though? Is that correct?
Well, school year employees don't have vacation time, so they actually could use their sick time. If it is a 12-month employee, let's say one of Jake's custodians, who for whatever reason decides that he or she does not want to come in, we would require them to use vacation time first and then sick time, since they will be allotted more vacation time July 1st.
Okay. And then it was my understanding that if people were not working and we were paying them, that we had to approve that as a board. Is that not correct?
It is. It's listed as action tonight. I wasn't able to find that anywhere, Andy, but it certainly can't hurt. I think it makes it a formal decision, and that would be helpful.
Okay. So Mary Kay, we have the motion. Somebody made a motion on this, correct?
Yes, you do.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? We'll go ahead with the roll call then.
Okay, Mead,
Yes.
Yes.
Neufeld,
Yes.
Pyatt is recusing. Balzer,
Yes.
Boldig,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. And we'll go on to overnight trips.
I can make the motion, but can I make it only for the May 11th and 12th, as the April 17th and 18th would not be eligible because of the current travel ban?
Yes.
May I make an amended motion to only allow the trip for the AHS engineering class electrothon competition on May 11th and 12th at Elkhart Lake Road, America?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Questions?
I it's not comfortable with any of these overnight trips at this time.
So these will be canceled if school is canceled, correct?
Yes, much like Centro Voce, Jeannie, there is a recommendation to cancel. That's what we would do.
Any further questions or comments?
Mary, could you mute your mic, please?
Pardon?
Mary Neufeld, could you mute your mic, please?
How
I
come
did have
nobody
a
else
question.
asked it?
I did have a question. My
Go ahead.
internet's cutting in and out, so my question is if school is not in session, these overnight trips will be canceled. Is that correct, Dr. Sprague?
That is correct.
But my question is, how can these
Okay, thank you.
students have practices and all this other stuff as long as school is canceled? How can they compete if they had no practices?
That is a good
That's
question. You heard that, like with the track athletes, for example, they're given workouts to do on their own. No question they won't be as prepared, but advisors and coaches would make a decision based on what they are prepared for.
Okay, thank you.
And so that
Yeah,
part
Andy,
of
that's
this
right.
motion.
My guess is that by pre-approving these, it's more of the just in case type of situation. In case these events still are going on, we're giving them so that they don't have to come back on short notice. These organizations don't have to come back to the board on short notice to get approval. This is just basically a
This
pre-approval.
is contingent, absolutely. This is contingent on them having the competition on May 11th and 12th.
Yep.
Great point there, Mike, that this is pre-approval.
Yeah, and with that, I wouldn't expect that on the 17th of April, anything could happen, but we could pre-approve that one too in a separate motion.
That makes sense, Andy.
Okay.
Yep.
But we'll go back to this motion because this motion is made just for the engineering class.
Correct.
Any further questions or comments on this motion? And then we'll go ahead and do a roll call, Mary.
Okay. Newfeld,
Yes.
Pyatt,
Yes.
Balzer,
Yes.
Boldig,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Mead,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. And then if somebody would like to make a motion for the other one?
I'll move that the board pre-approve the overnight trip for the boys golf team tournament in Madison for April 17th and 18th, 2020, provided it is still scheduled.
Second that.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
It
That was
Danny
me, Mary
Mary.
Danny.
Thank you.
And any further questions or comments on this?
Yeah, so this one for sure won't happen though, right? Under the current shelter in place through the 24th of
Correct.
April?
Yes.
It is.
That's correct, unless
Okay.
something unusual happened. Anything else? Then we'll do another roll call.
Pyatt,
Yes.
Balzer,
Yes.
Boldig,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Long,
No.
Mead,
No.
Newfeld,
Um,
Mary.
Yeah.
Mary. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mary.
Yes. Okay, we'll go ahead and do donations. If somebody'd like to make a motion.
I move the board approve the following donations: $150 from DJB Three Jokers Launch for the AHS Engineering Design class, $250 from Langlet 4 for the AHS Engineering Design class, $200 from John Philbrand Plumbing and Heating for the AHS Engineering Design class, $500 from Johnson Electric Coil Company for the AHS Engineering Design class, $175 from Home Companies for the AHS Engineering and Design class, $500 from Antigo Construction for the AHS Engineering Design class, $652.65 from Marianne Peterson for AmSoil in-kind AHS Engineering Design class, $100 from Stacy Coronan for the Food Service Angel Fund, and $820 from Actuant Corp for the Contavoce Coral Trip for a total of $2,777.65.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Andy, I do have a couple questions in regard to the drama play. are we going to get a date to the
You're breaking up, Danny.
Sorry about that. In regards to the Canto Voce trip, are we going to get an update from Mr. Oxley as to the status on that trip anytime? I'm not sure if all that came through or not, but the play, I'm just curious is if Mr. Blood, if you know, Dr. Sprague, if Mr. Blood has received word that the play can be continued on once this ban is lifted. I know there was some discussion about that, if we're going to receive some type of notification. And then I know that the New York trip was canceled, but Mr. Oxley was trying to work out some arrangements where some of the students could possibly get some refunds back to them. Do we know the status of any of that, Dr. Sprague?
So I want to make sure I'm on here. So I have not heard from Mr. Oxley yet about a refund. I do know that he felt confident we would get one. So I'll make a note to check with him and let the board know. In terms of the musical, Mr. Blood did tell me that with the licensure to have such a performance, that they would be willing to extend that should we be back in session. And Mike and I agreed that it would just be a matter of decision making once we knew when we'll be back in session. He thought he would need about a week of rehearsals. But we agreed at this time, it's just impossible to determine whether or not that will happen.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? Then Mary, we would do a roll call.
Balzer,
Yes.
Boldig,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Mead,
Yes.
Neufeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Okay, and thank you to all those who donated. Then we'll go back to Tim now, hopefully.
Okay, Andy, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm going to try this one more time and we'll see if I can present, and I'm going to grab the screen. Okay, and we're talking busing. And so I want the board, this is one section. I'll wait. Okay, can you see paragraph number 31?
Yes.
And then just somebody could confirm yes or no.
Yes.
Except
Okay.
for me, Tim.
So
I don't
this is
see-
the
I don't know what's with my screen, but I'm stuck. Just looking at Julie.
Okay. I'll read it then. The district shall pay the contractor the normal daily rate, excluding extra mileage over 60 miles on snow days during the term of the contract. If snow days exceed the number allowed in the school calendar, any day thereafter will be made up and paid for that day and not the snow day. So the only language we have that refers to paying the bus contractor was developed when there were days and minutes. So even this language doesn't really apply. So the contract, our busing contract, is silent on what we do to pay the contractor when we are not transporting students. So what we did last year is we had 8 days. And this term in the contract that says excluding extra mileage over 60 days or 60 miles, we have a base rate for a route plus mileage over 60. And so in the past, we have paid the base rate per route up to 60 miles. So does anybody have questions on what the current language or what the current contract says?
Nope.
Okay. So our neighboring districts are fairly silent, and I've got another screen up that I'm going to show you, which gives you an idea, and I want to give the board a sense of what we are paying Malliettes and what we're paying them for. Okay, I have a spreadsheet that I showed you when we were having trouble. So I've got a spreadsheet up, and this is essentially a 10-day billing from Malliettes. So in this 10-day period, we have $62,749.50 for regular ed transportation. We have $94.50 for specialized transportation. Then during the day, between 4K and early childhood and speech and language, we pay $1,977.42 for the little shuttle bus and primarily at East Elementary School. And then we pay $390 every 2 weeks for, we're calling it community-based transportation for special ed at the high school. So the total there, if we divide that by the 10-day period, is $7,456.76. So that is our daily rate for busing transportation. Do board members have questions on that number?
No.
Okay, so one of the things that's occurred to Malliettes business, and Malliettes are saying that across our region, across the state of Wisconsin, we're seeing schools paying between, I know of some districts that are not going to pay their bus contractors anything, but I think the majority are somewhere between 60% and 100%. And what I want to talk about Malliettes business and like our business, we're a district of declining enrollment. So here's some numbers for you from last year. So prior to consolidation, we had 28 bus routes that drove 2,121 miles a day. 6 specialized bus routes that drove 395 miles a day, for a total mileage per day of 2,516 miles. This year, because of consolidation, we have 25 regular ed bus routes and 4 sped routes. We dropped the 2,121 miles down to 1,700 miles, and the sped went from 395 to 240. So the contract for Malliette is slowly but surely, certainly they're cutting routes, but their margin and I'm sure their profitability is going down. So what I did on the bottom half of this spreadsheet, right through here, I'm saying I don't know where we want to go, but we know right now they're driving 1,968 miles a day. And this shouldn't be, that should be a normal number. So if we look at miles per gallon, I'm saying, okay, that's, and I have no clue if that number is even close, 6 miles to the gallon, that'd be 325 gallons of diesel fuel at a cost of $250. We have $820 a day where we're not burning fuel, right, for our normal bus contract. And so if we just subtract the cost of the fuel, that's a total of 89%. Malliette's only business is transporting our students. So it is certainly not in our best interest to squeeze them to the point where they can't function. But I'm not certain what that number is. And at this point, I just want to put it on discussion. Like last year, we paid them for 8 days where they did not transport students. So in the interim, I believe they have 1 day of transportation that we still owe them for. And I was going to, like last year, until we knew that we were closed, kind of consider those days as snow days and we would pay them. Anything additional, I am open for board input.
Tim, you were breaking up on a little bit there on my connection.
Yes.
My question, do we know if Malliette is still compensating, paying their staff throughout this time?
You know, Danny, I don't know that. I've heard Tim saying he was suggesting they file for unemployment, their drivers. You know, on average, their drivers are working 2 to 4 hours a day, probably. So, you know, I don't know how much that unemployment is going to mean to them. And they're also, I would say the majority of Tim's drivers are retired. So I can't answer your question. I can certainly find that out.
I think we ought to be making sure that his drivers are being compensated as well throughout this. If we're going to compensate him and his business, then we make sure that his drivers are being taken care of.
I agree with that one.
Okay.
I think he'll take care of that. I mean, he doesn't want to lose his workforce, but I just wonder if we should consider that if we hopefully get the go ahead for meals. I don't know, Julie, if you know how many buses that would take, and I can't imagine it would take the whole fleet. And then I don't know if we want to put that into account as well.
That's a good point, Jessica.
Tim Prunty, did Tim Grosskirth say anything about his drivers when we got that news today?
We've talked about it briefly, but we didn't draw any conclusions, Julie. You know, Tim is just the shock of not transporting. He likened it to, you know, he's got to weather the summer months with doing, investing in his buses, doing repairs. This past year, he put cameras in all of his buses. So he's trying to recoup. And right now, he likens it to putting hay in the barn. And so he's really worried about the operational side of his business. And we talked a little bit about it, but we didn't, you know, there's a lot of questions that are still unknown about exactly how to do it.
I do get the fact of wanting to take care of the operational side, but also want to make sure that the drivers are being taken care of. And as far as the meal deliveries, the company that I work for, we are doing meal deliveries. And you're right, Jessica, we don't need the whole fleet. I think we're doing our meal deliveries with 4 buses out of 10 buses with the company I work for. I just want to be sure that the drivers are being taken care of because, number one, we don't want them to go anywhere because they are essential to Tim's team and Tim's crew. And I don't want them to get disappointed and discouraged and leave him. I hope I'm understanding that correctly.
I read you loud and clear, Danny.
I agree. I just don't know if that's like overstepping our bounds. I mean, I would just make the assumption that Tim is going to do his best to do that as well because he wants to keep his drivers.
Mm-hmm.
So
if we're going to make a motion on this, we can put something in the motion for that effect.
Andy, what I was more interested in is at this point discussing it with the board, kind of getting a sense of where they're going, and then for COW, come back with formal action at COW if we could, to give you guys time to think about it, and I'll have a more formal presentation at COW with my discussions with Tim.
So this is
more informational. It is not listed as an action item.
Correct.
Okay, I think
Tim consideration.
This is Heidi. Tim Prunty, will you just, or think about the categorical aid piece too with special ed routes? If they're not actually running, can we still get categorical aid on those, or is that something you would have to look into? Because if we're paying them to run the routes, does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yes.
Okay.
So what Heidi's referring to, if you again look at the spreadsheet, this number right here, we're charging that to special education. So those are general fund dollars used for special education students, and we receive categorical aid, so we get an additional 25% aid on that expenditure. So if in fact, and Heidi, why I'm not too worried about it is I don't know, we have all sorts of things going on that are sort of half being served. This would be a case where there's no service rendered other than the capital payment on the equipment, and that's still happening. So yeah, that's a good question. I could try to seek clarification from DPI.
And I just wanted to clarify that what we are doing right now is just considering the fulfillment of the contract that we have in place right now. That's all we're asking us to do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what until we reach the decision last year, like I said, my intention would be that we would pay Tim the base rate until his next payment. He's due at least the one Monday. But like last year, I'm suggesting we go ahead and I was going to pay him the balance, the 9 additional days at the base rate, and then at COW we would decide how we're moving forward, and I'll have more information to provide at that time.
Sounds pretty solid to me, Tim.
Tim, I just wonder if you or anybody else has thought about if the federal government's going to give a stimulus package thing to employees. A lot of that's intended for people like bus drivers, waitresses, and they're going to get money. So does anybody feel like they're kind of getting paid twice? We will be paying Maliette, so he pays them, and then they're getting money from the stimulus also. And then can those bus drivers draw unemployment? Because they're also talking about paying unemployment at 100% as opposed to, not that they've agreed on anything, but that's some of the talk.
And Andy, those are all great points. I do know that there is a lobbyist group for the bus companies, and I know that they're trying to reach representation to get some declaration that these contracts be paid in full or be paid in some proportion. And I am seeing those articles on a daily basis. So the industry itself is very active in trying to come up with an answer.
Okay.
Tim?
Yep.
Okay, is the bus contract, I mean, let's say this was a regular year, we weren't in this situation right now, that's all budgeted, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, because I guess I just look at it as he's a local business owner, depending on us. I don't know. I just think we should just pay him whatever we were supposed to pay him. Otherwise, I worry about what's going to happen to these business owners, and depending how long this goes on. But I don't know, just my thoughts.
I would, because I think waiting on a stimulus package in the meantime is really a hardship on a lot of people.
I agree.
Oh, I agree with that. It's only if this drags on for months that stimulus will help anybody.
But I think the point being, when you look at Tim's outlay, he's losing $7,500 a day, and it's just a small family business. So I want to be mindful that you as a board and us as a partner are upfront and honest with him and treat him fairly as we can.
And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, except that it would make sense to chop the cost of fuel off of there if he's not burning it.
Right.
Oh, I agree with that. I think we could do a prorate, but I think it should be fairly close to what we were doing as well. But I'm sure Tim will come up with something good for that for the cow meeting.
Okay. I guess what I'm just asking that so the board knows that my intention is his next 10-day period, we would pay him the full day on the first day, the Monday, and his base rate following that paragraph 31 of the prior contract for the next 9 days of that period. And I'm not looking so much as a motion as long as I'm not doing something that's against the board's wishes.
Pam.
Keep it up.
Yep. Doing a
Thank
fine job of taking care of our own, Tim.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Are we ready to go to compensation?
we are.
All right. Let's see if I can make this work. I'm trying to. Okay. So can you see the spreadsheet? Is that up or is nothing up right now?
No, not yet.
Okay.
No, but Dr. Deep is.
So every time I close a window, I lose the entire shebang. So I'll have to remember how that works.
Close the window.
I thought it was when you closed another door.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So Mary Kay, can
Yes.
you tell me what screen you're seeing right now? Are you seeing the slideshow?
No, I see the board agenda.
Is anybody seeing the slideshow?
No.
Tim, I'm seeing it. But I've got another computer operating too.
What are you seeing, Mike?
I've got two laptops going or two Chromebooks going. So I'm seeing your slide presentation, the one that says salary comparison FY 2018-2019 with the conference.
That's what I have.
Okay, anybody else?
Tim, just click on the top
Okay.
of your screen. You see, you're presenting your screen, so you should just be able to pick what the tab you want at the top. Unless I'm mistaken.
Okay, there should be a graph up right now. Are you guys seeing the graph?
No.
No.
If I were you, Tim, I would double click on the administrative content where it says that type of stuff where it highlights it in there, and that should bring it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. So what I wanted to show you is a little model that I made for the teachers, and so let me just see what the heck you guys are seeing.
you're seeing that first slide.
Yeah, and the problem is I've got three slides, three computer monitors up, and I can't tell. It's not letting me see what I need to see. Let's go like board docs. Mary Kay, is there just one slide in the presentation, or how do I advance?
I was running into the same issue, Tim. Do you have the original one on your computer by chance?
I think the problem is it put it into a PDF.
Yeah, but I see one of 20, so there's got to be a way to.
I tried
move
putting a
down.
different, but it didn't take me anywhere.
Yeah, it worked on my one computer, but not the other.
Okay. Can the board members advance the PDF in the compensation?
Hey,
Are
Tim,
you able to do that?
try something on the other side of it. When you go move your cursor over to the right side of the screen where the little plus and minus stuff shows up. And if you do that, where you're in on your presentation, you should be able to see a little slide bar on that far right side of the screen that you can put your cursor on and take yourself up and down through the presentation.
Okay. So, Michael, you're saying.
Mine doesn't do that. It just goes to nowhere.
Oh,
There.
there it is.
Okay, how about now? Are you seeing it?
Yep.
You can make that work.
Okay.
It's page 2.
For some reason, I'm getting a lot of back feed right now, but I'll try to work through it. So wave if you can't hear me. Okay, so I've got it here. Here are I'm looking at teachers in general, and I'm comparing them to our conference peers. And we've got on the bottom, we've got average experience, and then we've got salary. Okay. So these are the schools.
Tim,
Yep.
I hate to interrupt you. Can you make that bigger? Like, can you expand that? There you go. You're good. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So now we've got Anago, Lakeland Union, Medford, Mosinee, Northland Pines, Rhinelander, and Tomahawk. And this next slide, this is the same data, and I've used Forecast Analytics, and they've done some regression analysis on the salaries and experience, and this line is the line of best fit. And all the blue dots are Anago teachers and their salaries on this line. Then our teaching staff said, well, you know, we really don't necessarily compare to those people. We are comparing to DC, Everest, Merrill, and Wausau plus these people. So I plug those people in. And again, the situation gets worse. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the majority of Anago's teachers are below that line of best fit. Would folks agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I said, you know, if we can't even, if we go back and we're not competing at this level with our conference peers, things certainly don't look any brighter when we add the Merrills, Wausau's, and DC Everest. So I want to use that conference peer as our base. And then I looked at what happens when we look at just our teachers with bachelor's degrees. And we've got this line of best fit here that's looking at only bachelor's degrees from our conference peers and Anago teachers. And to me, it looks pretty obvious that our starting teachers, those teachers with 0 to up to 10 years experience in the Anago district, look like they're lower than these other schools, right? Do people see that?
Yeah.
What's important is, if you remember your first algebra class, you described a line by the y-intercept and the slope. You may remember that. And what I'm doing is I'm pointing out the slope, or the y-intercept. And it appears that if you have a bachelor's degree, the line of best fit has a y-intercept of about $40,000 to $41,000. And that'll become more important as we go to the next slide. So now we're going to look at teachers with a master's degree. And Anago seems like they're kind of low across the whole spectrum of years of experience and then the salary. But this line of best fit now has a y-intercept of 50,000. And my point being is that it appears because, you know, the vast majority of these folks out here with this 15 plus years of experience, they started out before Act 10. And most schools had a salary that was, their lane and step was based on degrees, years of experience, and credits. So typically, people did receive compensation for having a master's. In Anago's case, I'm saying it looks like we've got some outliers in this area that things just don't seem quite correct. That, you know, in this case, someone's got, you know, 18 years or 17 years worth of experience and they haven't hit the $50,000 range yet with a master's degree. And that's an anomaly. Some of these. So I wanted to share that with teachers. And then, and I hope you guys stay with me.
Tim, are those teachers with masters, would those be teachers that we have hired that have come into our district and maybe they got 10 or 15 or 20 years of experience, but we hire them at some lower rate for, I guess they don't have 10 years. Yeah, they could have 10 years of experience somewhere else.
Correct.
But you know, hey, years ago, they meals in every place when they got school, laid people off, and you got laid off for 2 or 3 weeks, and you went back.
Is somebody talking there?
I don't think in our meeting. I think that's background.
Oh, okay. All right.
But, so I'm saying, for whatever reason, we may have hired these teachers at a lower salary than otherwise.
Yeah, and that's probably true, Andy. There's and some of these anomalies have to do with reporting in the 1202. So we're taking this data through Forecast Analytics, and it's in the DPI database. And some of it is total years of experience versus years within a school district. And sometimes if someone comes to us either from out of state or maybe one of the parochials or wherever they might be, we may or may not hire them. You know, we maybe they're coming in as their spouse moved in and they've got 25 years or whatever it might be. We might not hire them in this line of best fit. And I can't tell you why this person or either one of these wasn't higher up on the scale, but my point being is we do have some things that should be corrected, I think.
Okay.
I agree. Master's degrees, they should be being compensated. They should be at least up at your line, at least at the 50,000 with the master's.
So we provided the first 2 meetings. Julie and I provided the staff with this background information, and so we can when we we have the ability to look at this map. And I can't tell you why somebody is placed where, but in a particular district, I can filter it by district, and I can see which districts are doing what pretty easily. I mean, you can see this one where you've got Northland Pines in here in the green, that they're way above the line of best fit compared to the rest of the peers in the group.
Tim, can you filter this by
So we spent
a district out of this grouping, like taking
Pardon?
Northland Pines out, for example?
Yes, Andy, I can do, and that was the point of looking at. So when we looked at this slide, you know, one, we've got a lot more data points because we're dealing with some big schools. So in this slide, we have DC, Everest, Maryland, Wausau added. And I can toggle on those schools on and off. And the line of best fit, it does the regression analysis over, and it plots a new course for that average line of best fit.
Okay.
I think the important takeaway is, I think for us to be competitive, we have to get near the line and we have to be consistent, I think, through all groups, just to be fair. I mean, that would be, ideally would be the goal. So when Julie and I were talking to the teachers, that was kind of my premise. What can we do to be, to put together a plan so when someone comes to Anago, they know where they're going and they know how we fare compared to our neighboring districts. Okay, now I'm going to try, can you guys see it? It's not clear to me when I'm sharing. Are you seeing an Excel spreadsheet right now?
No.
No, we're still looking at your
Okay.
chart.
Okay, so let me do this.
You know, you think about it's pretty sad with car dealerships. Liquor stores.
Okay, how about now? Do you see an Excel spreadsheet?
Do you see an Excel spreadsheet?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this in the gray is our current salary structure. We start out at $39,500, and then we you move through, and we've got levels, and some, I'm sure some of you board members have seen this before. And to get from level 1C to 2A, it requires 90 hours of PD, so professional development hours. And those are hours outside of the normal school day. And we've got everybody plotted. And then when you get to this point at 63,500, it requires a master's degree to advance to 66,000. And then for every year you get to move, and then we get down to 68, and you have to have 90 hours of PD to advance to 69,000, and so forth. And we top out right now at 71,000. So what we heard from our group is the teachers didn't like the fact that why, when we get to this level, do we no longer get any $2,500 bump for getting the 90 hours of PD? And if we continue with the district and we're a productive employee, why do we top out at 71,000?
Tim, looking at that.
Yep.
Tim, all right, in the gray where we're looking at the salary, and then over on the right is the step level. In the tan part in between there, what is that?
This area? Or this?
In the whole second.
Or this?
Yeah, yes, there. What is that?
Okay, and I'm gonna talk about that. Okay, so what I did on this group is the senior staff wanted to talk about that $2,500 increase between level 7 and level 8. And as you can see, I added $2,500 to that level and raised those folks up. Okay, so here to stay on this salary schedule with that minor adjustment, and we allow everyone to move, and we're talking about, and Julie, maybe you want to chime in, we're talking about transitioning away from calculating professional development hours.
Yes. Tim and I have routinely, I think we met 4 weeks in a row with approximately 30 teachers. So we opened it up to the entire teaching corps Our purpose in doing that was to make sure we heard from younger teachers, veteran teachers, those with the masters, those without, etc. I was pleased we had a nice cross representation, but about the only piece that that group could agree on was that the purpose of professional development is important. Everybody should have continual or continuous learning opportunities, but to tie it specifically to compensation, like other districts, they didn't see that connection as being airtight. They felt it's flawed. So we did agree to navigate away from tying PD to the salary schedule. But other than that, people had different thoughts on which area of our model we should fix first. Is it the master's degree? Well, those without a master's degree think absolutely not. We should not focus on righting that wrong, etc. So Tim and I did our best to say that, you know, finances are limited. And so we want to do the best we can moving forward. And then, of course, COVID-19 hit. So our next communication with that group will be virtual. But while we agree with professional learning being very important for our profession and really all professions, nobody felt that it should remain tied to our model. What was insisted upon, and we agree, is as we navigate away from it, if that's what we do, we have to make certain that we compensate people for the hours they've already put in. We can't just abandon the model and say, too bad that you put in your 90 hours. So Tim, I'll let you talk about the numbers, but we want to make sure that we stick with the model long enough so that people are compensated appropriately.
Okay, so this number that I've highlighted right now, the 288,000, is what it would cost, what it costs for everybody to advance. And Julie mentioned the PD. So anybody that is on a level C here must have 90 hours accumulated 90 hours to advance to the next level. This 288,655 assumes that everybody's going to advance. Melanie, Ryan, and I are going through everybody's PD right now, and it's likely that this number will be less because they knew at the start of this year that come July 1, for them to get the next step, these folks on C had to have accumulated the 90 hours. So it's likely that we'll have maybe 6 to 10 folks that may not have earned all the hours to advance. So the number's probably going to be a little bit smaller. Now, I've talked to the board a little bit about, we have this part of the salary budget, I include salaries and benefits, and we budget extra in that area because I don't know who's taking family and single insurance or staying on their parents' insurance. So right now we have about $175,000 to $180,000 of money in this year's budget that has been unallocated due to primarily health insurance benefits. So the numbers reflected in the tables, the group asked to see what we could do to give everybody a little adjustment, and whether that was a master's adjustment or add money to the salary schedule. And we've got two options. One is adding a percentage, and the other is adding a straight dollar amount. And we can play with these. The important part is I've told the group, you know, the percentage works well where everybody is given the same percent. It tends to favor folks on the top. Then we're adding a straight $500 to each cell. And what I like about this is it gets our starting level to look more like our competitors. You know, when we look at the Merrills or the you know, anybody nearby, they're 40,000 plus. So I'm liking the 500, and just by adding the $500, and I allow people to step, that costs us $288,655. Adding $500 to the cell adds an additional $155,312. So just a little bit of money starts accumulating relatively quickly.
I think that's happened. I think I was sick. I was
Tim? Tim?
Yep.
How when you're looking over at this oh no, I lost it. The levels, the steps over, yeah, right there where you've got the, okay. When you get to 18 to 23, how many people does that involve that we've got up there at the top? Do you know that off the top of your head? How many are sitting up there? Is it a large number of teachers or no? Okay. Oh.
Are you able to see the graph that I pulled up?
Yes. Okay. So that the 21 up there, that means there's 21 up there at the top, or 20.
Correct.
21. Okay. So our biggest number is in the first column there. That's where we've got our.
We have 71 teachers making between 39,500 and 45,600.
Okay.
in service. Grab your bike off outside.
And I've told the group, you know, it appears that we're in the recruiting mode, so we do have to consider being, you know, looking more attractive to people we're trying to attract, you know, and there's that balancing act between honoring those that have served us, the folks in this range, and you know, competing for the folks in this range.
If I could add as well, we also agreed, everyone who came to the meetings, that post Act 10, where you were placed on a salary schedule was something you could negotiate. We've never been in that situation before. So our teachers who stay with us for a long time, yes, they navigate their way through our salary schedule. But if somebody does leave a neighboring district or even a district that isn't a neighbor, you know, they are in a position, and you know, it is, we don't have as many candidates as we once had. So teachers, especially those of hard to fill positions, they're really at an advantage where they can negotiate more strongly than ever before. And it becomes about where you are placed on a schedule.
So then the last point I wanted to make is just, you know, we talked about that little difference of the master's teachers and some of those that are, it would be nice to make an adjustment to allow them to get closer to that line of best fit. And so I put together this little section here on the spreadsheet, and essentially what it shows is, so I've got on our current salary schedule, our breakdown in wages, and the number of teachers with master's degrees in those pay groups. And if we look at this, those that are making 54.5 or less, this is the breakdown of those teachers, and allowing them to step one additional level. If we did that as a master's adjustment, that would cost us $45,000 just for that alone. So these are the things we've talked and shown the teachers. We haven't drawn any conclusions yet on where we want to go. The adjustments that I'm talking about are those unexpended funds for benefits that we have allocated in this year's budget. And my proposal would be whatever we agree on, we would roll that over in fund balance so that we could make the adjustment in July to their salaries. So there will be more to come on this in future meetings.
Hey, Tim, I just want to know if you have looked at all, I know other districts do pay certain teachers more, and I know this can be a touchy point, but so like tech ed teacher or math teacher or something, have you looked at adjusting those hard to fill positions?
Andy, we have certainly it would take a matter of hours to do the analytics on that and look at it. I think the tech ed department, those folks have been fairly aggressive, and we've seen that over time. They're starting at a little higher rate than, unfortunately, some of our elementary ed staff are. But it's like Julie has said in the past, you look at the best possible candidate, and then you try to negotiate with them on where you can hire them at. Sometimes it works to your favor that you can plop them right in where their years of experience and they come in at. Other times you can't, and you can't get them. So formally we haven't done that, but informally we've had.
So informally, we just start people a level or two higher than we normally would.
If we have to have them. Julie, would you concur with that?
I would, because we know that, for example, we just had to part ways with a top candidate. We could not meet what he required to move his family here, and it was terribly unfortunate. But our scale wasn't really in his ballpark. And we felt too uncomfortable and fiscally irresponsible to create an entirely different scale for him. So we had to let him go. But yes, to answer your question, we can negotiate a placement for hard to fill positions.
Okay.
Well, what I struggle with, Andy, and I think Julie does as well as our principals, when you're placing new candidates ahead of staff that you know and have served you, and they might be in a similar department in a similar position, and to me that isn't fair to the folks that are working for you. Although at times you have no other choice. In this specific example Julie is referencing, we have an open position yet. We have not filled. And come the fall, it would be nice to have that one filled.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop sharing then.
Nice job, Tim.
Okay, then we are kind of it for the meeting.
It is.
And the next meeting would be April 28th. Hopefully it could be in person. Nice, but not okay, so I guess we'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll
moved.
make a motion.
Come on, Mike.
So moved. Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I've got a question. How do you get rid of this thing? How do you? Oh, never mind. Never mind. I see a little. Quit laughing. I mean, I can't believe I did this. Okay.
Very